Welcome to Lawless Underground. In this video, we'll be diving into a chilling case where a killer managed to evade capture for almost an entire year. The story I'm about to tell you is both shocking and tragic, and will leave you wondering how such a dangerous criminal could remain free for so long. It would have seemed like any other evening with the victim, as she had prepared dinner for herself. However, everything changed when there was a knock at the front door, and from that moment, many lives would change forever. We will be discussing the details of this heinous act, so viewer discretion is advised. With that being said, let's journey into the case of Serafima Meshaka. In West London, England, lies the vibrant and historic district of Ealing. Ealing is the third largest London borough in population and 11th largest in area, covering part of West London and a small part of North West London. Made up of 7 major towns, including Acton and Greenford, Ealing has a rich cultural heritage and a strong connection to the film industry, with the renowned Ealing Studios located in the area. Due to its abundance of parks and tree-lined streets, Ealing has long been referred to as the Queen of the Suburbs. The district, which blends suburban and urban neighbourhoods and is known for its excellent transport links, is a favourite amongst Londoners and tourists alike. On Wednesday, 18th of September 2019, police were called at 1:17 PM to a residential address at a block in Haven Green Court after concerns were raised for the welfare of a woman. The officers dispatched to the property attempted to make contact with the homeowner to determine their whereabouts, but to no avail. Upon entering the property at around 1:25 PM, police officers began to search the property to ensure her safety. However, when reaching the bathroom, they tragically discovered a woman's body lying face down. A medical examiner who was called to the scene of the third-floor apartment analysed the body, and a short time later, the woman was pronounced dead. The property was cordoned off as a crime scene was put in place, and detectives searched the property for any physical evidence to aid them in their investigation. They spoke to witnesses to see if they noticed any suspicious behaviour or activity at the time, and to gather information on anything they may have heard. Officers noted an injury to the back of the woman's head and contacted colleagues from the Specialist Crime Command to analyse the body. After examining the crime scene, forensic investigators came to the conclusion that there were no indications of forced entry or any other disturbance. A Met Police spokesperson said, "The woman's next of kin have been informed. Formal identification still awaits, but officers can confirm the woman is Serafima Meshaka. There have been no arrests at this time." Police released a photo of the 58-year-old who was found dead at her home address, and a top police officer said they are keeping an open mind about possible motives as the murder investigation continues. Serafima Meshaka, known as Seema, is of Russian descent and was director of a company called Guiding Guardian UK, in which she worked as a guardian to Russian children going to school and university in the UK. On top of this, she also worked part-time as a personal assistant to a Russian-Israeli businessman. She lived in her flat at Haven Green Court, which was valued at £900,000 and was part of a well-kept complex of buildings occupied mainly by elderly residents and professionals, which can only be accessed with electronic key fobs. Seema kept a quantity of money at her home address due to paying for extensive building work at the time via cash, with police recovering a reported €30,000 and another £10,000. Her many interests included watching films and reading books in her flat, and she also had a passion for ballet. Her husband Michel, who lives in a separate flat in St John's Wood, earlier said the incident was very serious and being dealt with at the top level. He said, "It has gone beyond the highest level imaginable. It's because my wife was very well known, and she was known within high circles." An elderly neighbour living on the floor below Seema spoke at the time of how the pair had met at a Christmas party many years ago. She said, "We all speak to each other and invite each other to Christmas parties and birthday parties. I met her at a Christmas party many years ago. The woman, who did not wish to be named, added that Seema had lived in the building for several years and recently had renovations carried out for 3 months. Bushra Imran, 43, who lives in a flat on the floor below Seema, also said, "I was very scared this is happening because we are the only ones with keys to the building. It's very quiet here." According to her friend Nina Koltashova, she had a rich collection of expensive jewellery that she had inherited from her late sister. But despite her riches, and while supporting her parents in Russia, Nina had stated that Seema's lifestyle was very frugal. The investigation, being led by Detective Superintendent Helen Rance, later put out a statement and said, "At this stage we don't know what happened to Serafima, who was sadly found dead at her own home. We would appeal for anyone who saw or heard anything suspicious around the address on the evening of Tuesday, September 17th, through to the Wednesday lunchtime when she was found, to please come forward. At this stage we are keeping an open mind about what happened and any possible motive for this attack." After searching Seema's flat, police found a file of facts that contained information relating to bank accounts belonging to the Angut family, copies of their visas and email addresses. Mr. Angut, also known as King or Angel, had been named in a Home Office report as an organised crime boss and an arms dealer from Odessa. With police investigators learning more about Seema, they learnt that she was the unofficial personal assistant to the alleged crime boss, Alexander Angut, residing in Knightsbridge, West London, who paid her £2,000 a month. Seema, who trained as a medical doctor in Moscow, had access to family bank accounts so she could order food and take care of household bills and appointments. A special post-mortem examination carried out on the 23rd of September 2019 deemed the cause of death as severe and multiple blunt trauma to the head. Over the next year, the case grew stale, until late one night on the 9th of October 2020, over a year after Seema's murder, officers from the Metropolitan Police confirmed the arrest of a 41-year-old businessman of Uxbridge Road, West Ealing, who was charged with her murder. His brother, a 38-year-old of Stanhope Road, Greenford, was also charged with assisting an offender. Detectives retrieved CCTV showing the communal entrance of the block, and at approximately 5:10 p.m. on the 17th of September, the day before Seema's body was discovered, the arrested man, confirmed to be Armin Aristake Sayan, was seen entering the property before leaving moments later. Just over 2 hours later, at 7:50 p.m, Seema was seen leaving the entrance to get a parking permit from a friend's car before returning alone a few minutes later. At 8:25 p.m. that same evening, Armin returned once again to Haven Green Court and was seen to be in possession of a small bag on arrival. Roughly 1 hour passed by before Armin was picked up again exiting the block, and was now pictured carrying a bigger bag for life type carrier bag. Armin immediately became a person of interest and a priority for police detectives to talk to in regards to his visit to the flat. Armin, who is originally from Armenia, had met Seema through his girlfriend Ksenia and had known Seema for around 3 years, with the pair having grown closer in recent months. During the interview, Armin accepted that he had been to visit Seema that night, but told police that he had left her alive. Detectives discovered that Armin was known to be in deep financial difficulties after owing approximately £120,000 to a legal loan shark. He admitted owing her thousands of pounds but denied killing her, saying he had visited that day to ask for a loan. Following his visit to her, he stated that he had gone with his brother to a relative's home before going on to meet another man in Victoria, supposedly for a discussion about buying a care home business. He claimed the bag he is seen carrying on CCTV contained all clothes that Seema had given to him to take to a charity shop. In August 2021, almost 2 years after the murder of Serafima Meshaka, Armin Aristake Sayan stood trial at the Old Bailey. The court heard transcripts of phone calls dating back to February 2019 that the defendant had recorded on his mobile phone, and which suggested he was in significant debt, and owed money to several people, including more than £100,000 to a man known as the Turk. Jurors heard Armin had been in contact with 3 men in relation to pay back his debts and had made plans to get his hands on the significant quantity of cash. It was implied by the prosecution that Armin knew that Seema kept a significant amount of money at home, as she was having extensive building work carried out and would often pay for this using cash. They suggested that he had planned to steal it from her to resolve his financial difficulties after growing increasingly desperate when his payment deadline was approaching. Jurors were shown CCTV footage of Armin entering the property and then leaving almost 1 hour later. However, the second of which showed Armin carrying a bag-for-life type carrier bag which appeared quite full, as it is suspected to be carrying the stolen cash and murder weapon. They were also shown CCTV footage of Armin arriving at Seema's apartment earlier that evening at approximately 5:10 PM, in what the prosecution say was a failed attempt to carry out his crime, but finding that she was not alone, as the building workers were still present at that time, he instead later returned at 8:30 PM. Following examination of the defendant's mobile phone, recordings were found in which Armin tried to arrange for Seema to attend the opera while he stole the money from her apartment, although this plan later fell through. Additional phone inquiries established that Armin had communicated with his brother through brief calls and text whilst inside the address. In one such call, which was recorded and played in evidence to the court, he can be heard saying, "Come, there is much." Armin's brother facilitated his departure from the house and his transport to Victoria, where he handed over the stolen cash. The prosecution say that as he leaves Haven Green Court, he has been the last person to see Miss Meshaka alive. On Wednesday, 13th of October 2021, Armin Aristake Cyan, 43 of Uxbridge Road, was found guilty following a 9-week trial at the Old Bailey. He was sentenced to life with a minimum of 30 years imprisonment after attacking Serafima Meshaka at her Ealing home. Alexandra Healy, prosecuting, said, "Miss Meshaka was murdered in her home on the 17th of September 2019. She was 58 years old. She had been hit multiple times to the head with a blunt instrument. She was discovered the following day lying face down in her bathroom in a pool of dry blood. The last person to see her alive was the defendant, Armin Aristake Cyan. He was, the prosecution say, the only person who could have killed her." Miss Healy said that at the time of her death, Armin was in a dire financial position. He had borrowed money of anyone and everyone and was being pursued by all of his creditors. Most significantly, he owed over £100,000 to someone who was referred to as the Turk. He had postponed repaying that money initially until September 10th, 2019, at which time that very large debt had grown to over £120,000. Miss Healy stated that Armin was due to meet with his creditors on September 17th to repay the money, so he had decided to steal the money himself. She said the defendant had arrived at Seema's apartment first at 5 PM, but finding that she was not alone, later returned at 8:30 PM. Then addressing Armin, Miss Healy stated, "You are a thoroughly callous person. You are greedy, selfish and arrogant, and prepared to use extreme violence for your own end. You had no regard for this poor woman. You used her and you killed her in the course of crime." She said the victim was entitled to feel safe in her adopted country and her own home. It is accepted that Armin's brother facilitated his leaving from near to the scene and his transport to Victoria for the meeting, in which the prosecution say he handed over the stolen cash. Armin's brother was originally arrested and charged with assisting an offender, however the case against him was later discontinued by the CPS. Detective Superintendent Helen Rance from the Specialist Crime Command said, "Serafima was going about her life as normal on the evening she died. She had run some small errands and prepared herself for dinner when Aristake Cyan called at her address for the second time that day. Having known him for around 3 years, she had no reason to suspect that she was in danger. However, in the brief course of his visit, he succeeded in his calculated pre-planned course of events to steal a substantial amount of cash from her, in order to bail himself out of his financial worries. Serafima was no threat at all to Aristake Cyan, but he betrayed her confidence and attacked her in her own home, her safe space, in the most cowardly way. Her family remain devastated and are still coming to terms with her untimely loss. A victim impact statement from Serafima's former husband said, "Nothing will bring my wife back. No sentence this man can get for this horrific crime would ever be enough. She was a wonderful person whom will forever be greatly missed." And that brings to a close the horrific case of Serafima Meshaka, who was tragically taken from her loving family at 58 years old after falling victim to a brutal attack. Lawless Underground would wish to extend its sincere condolences to the loved ones of Serafima Meshaka, who was savagely killed in this cowardly attack. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, then please consider liking the video and subscribing to Lawless Underground for more crime related content, and hit the notification bell in order to stay up to date with next week's gruesome tale. If you have any suggestions or requests for future videos, then please let me know in the comments below. Until next time, stay curious, and goodbye for now from Lawless Underground.